Hi YouTube, welcome to those who are new, welcome back to those who are returning, and today this is just an educational video on editing a first chapter, and I just want to give thanks to the author. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to go ahead and critique it, to edit it, and to just offer some constructive feedback on it. And I just also, before I start, want to reiterate to those watching that a living, breathing person has written these words on this page, and I just want to ask that you guys be kind and gentle in the comments. And I also want to mention how this is basically me blindly going into the chapter, so I'm really going off on what I'm seeing. So the edits and the criticisms that I may be giving, it may not follow the plot of the story per se. It will just give advice on how to further enhance the chapter, enhancing the feelings, the emotions, the suspense that the chapter is striving to give. And I also want to further preface that I will have a trigger warning up just for the viewers who are watching who can't really handle sensitive topics, because this chapter does have sensitive elements to it regarding abuse. So if you guys are triggered by that kind of thing, I'm just letting you guys know ahead of time. All right, let's jump in. So chapter 1 starts out with dialogue, and it says, "Take off your shorts now. He, boyfriend number 4, demands from my doorway." And all right, from the first line, we could tell that the author really likes to pack a punch right off from the start. And we see that with the dialogue. Going further, it says, "His jugular veins are visible beneath his pale skin. A bottle of liquor is gripped tightly in his right hand. My dog, Posy, defiantly barks from her spot on the floor. Neither of us ever liked him." Okay, and so starting off, I just wanted to say I really just admire how the author just dives us into the action straight up. There's no waiting, there's no dragging. It's just like in your face, and that definitely can pull in readers. We can automatically understand that the main character is in an abusive situation. We also get a brief description of the aggressor and also the mention of her dog named Posy, and I think that that was really nicely crafted into that paragraph. But shock, it doesn't automatically make a scene strong. It's a tool and it can't stand alone. What I just read, it is lacking some grounding. What I mean by grounding is that give the reader a little more context before jumping into that jarring command, because that will really enhance the fear and the dread of the reader as they are reading those words, because right off the bat we hear that command, but we don't have any attached feelings toward it. We're just being told what is happening. We don't really care just yet. That's why we have to make atmosphere so that we do care. So I would suggest before that first line of dialogue to just make a couple paragraphs of atmosphere, grounding us in the scene and in the suspense and dread before you just drop that bomb on us. Because I can only speak for myself, and as a reader, I really have to be grabbed by the throat if I'm going to continue reading a story. And I could see that you did that with that line of dialogue, but it's your wording that would help anchor the scene emotionally so that we could further care about the characters and what's going on. And just so you guys know, I did censor out some words so that it would be YouTube friendly. So going further, the alcoholic douche. I still don't get what my mom ever saw in him. Her good taste must have flown out the window, poisoned by her own bad choices. She's always had an eye for looks at least, but there's no polite way to describe this man. Okay, so from what I just read right now, I really love how we're getting from the main character how she's frustrated with her mom, and not just with her mom, but also with this guy that she has to deal with, because she does mention that there's no polite way to describe this man that really shows a deep disdain, a deep bitterness and hatred for someone, and I really appreciate what this author is trying to do here. But I would say that this paragraph is a bit misplaced, because we were just reading a intense scene about this guy telling the main character really to take off her shorts, but then we're thrown into exposition. I would say to be really wary about this, because you can really pull the reader out of the atmosphere you are already trying to put them into. So I would say to be careful of that. Okay, going further. He steps into my bedroom, but instead of listening, I back away to the corner where my bed, all adorned in pink, sits, and I plop down on it. And from here, I could just see that the wording is a bit clunky. I could see where the author is going with, but I would just offer advice to reword this sentence. And I just want to highlight that word, or that phrasing, plop down on it. That just seems a bit too not serious. It seems a bit like playful, like you just plop down on something. It's not something that's tense or screaming, I'm in a bad situation. I would say a better wording would be something like, I scurry on the bed, my spine gnawing on the headboard, or just something like that. Alright, so going forward, I discreetly nudge the metallic frame of my phone further behind my back with my fingers, slipping it deeper in between my pillows. I regret not putting it on silent before he barged in. At least this time I made the decision to quickly switch to my sound recorder, and with the way he's stark drunk, he couldn't possibly ask for my phone like he usually does, could he? Alright, pause. So I really like that. It really does incite some form of dread and suspense, like, oh my gosh, she's like slipping it further behind herself, hopefully he doesn't find it or hear it. And I really think that it was woven in there beautifully, and this really shows the potential and the skill of the author, and I just wanted to highlight that and to give the author props. And I do want to mention the second part of this paragraph, starting with, at least this time I made the decision to. I think that her turning on the recorder should have been mentioned before she is slipping the phone behind her back. Maybe to add more suspense to it, you could have shown her struggling with it or fumbling with the phone with her fingers, getting the app open to start the recorder. I think that would have added a lot more suspense and dread than her worrying that he might ask for her phone. That's just my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt. But going forward, over and over, I chant the same silent plea in my head to an object that obviously can't hear my thoughts. Please don't beep. Please don't beep. Please don't beep. I wish to retreat into something soft, something that feels safe, a place where he can't touch me. And I just want to say, with these two small paragraphs, I really love how it is drawn out. Like the dread of her hoping that the phone doesn't beep, like you kind of feel it. It's like you're dreading with her about that. Just that detail of her wishing that she could just retreat into something soft. I feel like that is a much needed emotional touch that we as the reader are reading, so that we could really understand what she's going through, where her thought process is. So I feel like that was well placed and really stylistic, and we could really hear the character's voice during these two small paragraphs. So I think that's great. So going forward, today it has to be different. He won't get his way, and my mom would believe me. I used to give him whatever he wanted, but not anymore. I'm done playing meek. I've had enough. Again, here we're getting her thought process, and we are just further being shown with her thoughts, what she's thinking, how she's processing things. But I realized that we haven't really felt what she's feeling. We're just being told mostly everything, but that's just what I am evaluating so far. But let's keep going. Messed up. That's the kind of love I started receiving ever since he showed up at our doorstep, after a so-called wedding that, as far as I know, never even happened. The only real wedding my mom ever had was with my actual dad. I know this because of their wedding photo receipts. When my dad was still around, he and mom used to go on and on about every little detail of that day to my preteen years. I think that's a typo, but I think it means years. Pausing right here, I can kind of see that we're really being pulled out of the immediate action right now, because we went through several paragraphs of exposition that are not really connected to the beginning of the chapter. And this could be intentional, but if it's not, and if you really wanted to ground a reader in that suspenseful moment, it's best to wait on the exposition until after the action has stopped, or after the climax has ended, or when you have felt a beat in the chapter where you could kind of slip in some exposition. But right now, it's like the exposition has really taken over the story, and by now the reader probably would have forgotten the first half of what I read. So if that's not your intention to pull the reader out, I would say to pause in the exposition until we get a sense of what the heck is going on with the guy that yelled that crazy thing out to her. And as I read further in this exposition, I did notice how the main character is explaining her previous life with her dad before he died, and then how he has randomly disappeared, and it turned out that he ended up unaliving himself off of a building, and they don't really know why he did it. And then the narration goes on to explain the mother's spiral into her going after different boyfriends, and it lists every single one from 1 to 3, and then the fourth one is the one that started in the chapter. There are some bits of exposition that I believe could have been cut out. For example, the laundry list of the ex-boyfriends, if they're not important to the story later on, I feel like it could be cut off or even just tightened a bit, so that the reader is not being told stuff that they wouldn't really need to know, because that will just frustrate the reader. That will kind of drag the reading on and make it not as enjoyable, unless there is something that is important with what you are saying. But if those other exes are exes, and if they won't come back again, there's no point in bringing them up to such a large degree, I would say. And then also we go further to finding out the mom spirals into depression, and how the main character even finds her stash of meds lying in her room, how the mom really pretended like everything was fine, yet and hiding all of this stuff from the daughter. And I really just admire that the author is really touching on these sensitive topics, because you don't really see a lot of authors, even younger authors. I don't really know the age of the author, but I'm thinking she is younger, and you don't really see younger authors touching up on these topics, like with abuse, with mental decline and all that. And if it is executed in a great way, it could really touch a lot of hearts, and I just think that that's really praiseworthy. And then further on, we see that her dog was actually gifted by the fourth boyfriend that was at the start of the chapter. And then we see like his subtle changes into him having some sort of predatory behavior gradually toward the main character. And then after all that exposition, we are pulled back into the beginning scene, and then it's as follows. He takes another swig of his beer, and I curl up on my bed, hugging myself tight. So right here, I can already see a missed opportunity to just show us how she's feeling, because we are told how she's feeling. We're told how she is hugging herself tight, but we don't know how she's feeling. And a way to describe that, if you are taking notes, is to mention how as he's taking another swig of beer, maybe her heart pounds, maybe her palms become sweaty, or she's trembling. Maybe she tries to swallow, but her throat is dry because she's so nervous. It's details like that that really pulls the reader in. And when we are pulled in, it's like we are like in her skin rather than being outside just observing. As the author, you really want to pull your readers in so that they're not just observing that, but that they are in the action, they're in what is happening right now. So I just wanted to add that. So continuing, it says, Posey barks again after being silent for a while. Now on all fours. She knows I don't want him here. All right, so that's a great way to continue pulling Posey in the story so that the reader doesn't forget her. So I think that's great that you continue to add Posey in there. All right, come on now. Aren't you a good girl, Zizi? He says as he walks slowly toward me. I've never been this scared of him before, but now I am, because I'm refusing for the first time. And he doesn't seem to be in his right senses at all. And once again, we are being told everything so far. We haven't really been showed or pulled in. She says she's never been this scared of him before, but I really would like to feel that fear as the reader. And this is just a little tidbit for the author to really know show versus tell. And I'm not one of those people that says you must show everything and tell nothing. There's an equal balance with everything. But with this is something that I believe has to be shown if you want to get that visceral impact that you most likely want to get from your reader. Then all hell breaks loose from his gut when he's only 2 feet from my bed. So this sentence is a bit awkward. I would suggest to rewrite that to just make it flow better and to make it make sense, like off rip, so that your readers are not pausing to kind of wonder what you meant by this. Little girl, didn't you hear me? How about your pity behind start listening to me more? Who do you think pays the bills? Pays your tuition? Feeds you? Your mom? Oh, don't be freaking stupid. She's probably just saving up for the next poor dude who comes around. After she's sent me away, like the others, I'd gladly leave. Because you know what? This place sucks. I mean, look at this pathetic house. No wonder her last boyfriend killed himself in front of the whole world to see. Okay, so from this first paragraph of dialogue, we can really see just how vulgar he is, just how arrogant and mean-spirited he is. But I would suggest to use action dialogue tags that would further ground us in the story. Like as he's talking, perhaps you could show us him stumbling as he's yelling this to her. And then after this dialogue, we are again put into exposition. And it's fine if this is what you're going for, but if you are going to ground your reader in the action, I would say again to place this somewhere else or to just cut it into like small segments. But we do once again get a sense of how she feels abandoned by her mom not being there, and just her wondering where she is. So going down a bit further, I am starting with this paragraph that says, my skin glistens with sweat and the curly hairs on the nape of my neck cling to my damp skin. All I crave is an escape, a book to disappear to, a sketch to finish, stranger things to lose myself in, but I'm trapped in this mess. And I just have to say, I really love the way you described her hair clinging to her nape. Like, that's actually really good and perfectly woven in there. And I feel like that this is the kind of visceral writing that needs to be throughout the whole chapter. I just really love that. And the second part of that paragraph, I would just say to scratch it out, because earlier you already mentioned how she wishes she could just disappear to like a safe place too already. So this is kind of redundant and it's not really needed in my opinion. And then we are put into a little bit more explaining of how the fourth boyfriend, he's never been caught before abusing her, and how he's really meticulous and always cleans up after himself, and how she just wishes that her mom would just come and catch them in the act so that he could just be thrown out and even put in jail. But then she goes on to say that her mom never comes and that her hope of her mom coming is really lessened. So she really has no hope of her mom coming at all. And then with this paragraph of, but none of that happens. Mom doesn't show up. She never does. She never will. And I really like how that was placed there. Good job on the author, because that was You could really feel that in there, the hopelessness. That's really well placed. And the last paragraph is, I shudder, not moving an inch except to hug myself tighter and bury my face, wishing it was all away. In just seconds, I feel a tug on my thick curls, a slap, and then I hear Posy's furious barking. And that's the end of the chapter 1. And the ending right there, I could definitely see the shocking impact that you wanted to throw onto the reader, but it's really put in a way that it tells us what's happening, but we don't see what's happening. It's not shown. So I would just say to rewrite that. And we read that she was slapped, but it would be better to read that his large palm slammed against her cheek, making it feel like fire exploded or something like that. And as just a little extra to this review, I have written a kind of copy edit of the beginning of the chapter because I felt that the author really wanted to drive suspense in the chapter, but I feel like it didn't start at a way that it is suspenseful. We are thrown in a jarring beginning with his command, but I would say a few paragraphs before that could really lead to pulling the reader into suspense. I just wanted to further teach and explain how suspense can be drawn out. So how my copy edit started off is with kind of a line of fear, of dread, starting off with, "Mom's not home. I hate when she leaves me alone with him, that monster." So from that start, the reader is already like punched into what is going on. So they know that there's a character dealing with abandonment, and when that character is abandoned, she's left with a monster who we assume is an abuser. And then the passage goes on. My heart thuds against my sternum as I tiptoe across the second floor and into my bedroom. His clumsy and loud footsteps echo downstairs. He's drunk again. My stomach is in knots. I turn to close my door, and fear strikes my body like a match as the rusted hinges squeal. Why do I even try to close it? He broke the lock 2 weeks ago. And with this passage, it really puts us in the present because like we're feeling her getting nervous. We're not being told she's nervous, but her heart is thudding against her sternum. She's tiptoeing across the second floor, which evokes like dread and fear, like she's hiding from someone. And the mention of his clumsy and loud footsteps being downstairs, and it really shows that he is not in his right mind, that he is drunk. And the last two sentences of why do I even try to close the door? He broke it 2 weeks ago. That shows that this is a reoccurring thing that happens, and it's told in like a second. You don't have to over explain anything. It's just really tight and really just shown right there. And then the character goes further and says, I hate to admit it, but it gave me a sense of security. I had no one to shield me, not even my mom. The door was always there, unlike her, but now it was broken, useless. I was defenseless. And that really shows abandonment right there without going into exposition of it. And then further down, I introduce her dog. Posy, my white Pomeranian, slips through the small crack before the door clicks shut. But then the sound of his footsteps thunder like a raging storm. My fingers tremble against the scraped up white paint. Crap, he's coming. Where's my phone? I need evidence. And this really shows like fear rising, dread. When she clicks the door shut, he hears it. Then he tries to scramble upstairs. The dresser. I snatch my phone from the edge, but my hands are so slick with sweat that it slips. The corner cracks on the hard floor, but that's fine. I swipe it up. My breaths are ragged as I scurry to the corner of my bed. The pillows, sheets, and comforter are all adorned with pink, my favorite color. And this really brings out intensity. We could really feel it by how her hands are just so slick with sweat that her phone slips out and falls on the ground. And this works better than just saying she nervously grabbed her phone. We see how she was nervous and how she was so jittery that it fell to the ground. So going forward, I fumble with my password and then with the apps. Recorder. Ugh, where is it? ZZ, you're there? I think I heard you. He hollers through drunken laughter. My brown eyes bulge and a breath escapes my dry lips. He's almost here. Hearing his voice makes my chest tighten. I open the app just as his hand gripped the door handle. And we could clearly see here how the suspense is building. And the key to a great first chapter is to just build that suspense, to build that connection with the main character so that we could really feel and understand why we have to care for her or him, whoever the main character is, and to be so attached to them that whatever aggressor is happening to them, it's like it's happening to us, the reader. So we really got to ground the reader first, like I mentioned earlier. She goes on to say, I hit record and swiftly stash my phone behind me. The door eerily creaks open and bloodshot blue eyes stare down at me, full of expectation, yet I refuse to move. Sweat dampens my curly brown hair, making it appear dark. I forgot to put on silent. It's too late now. I discreetly nudge the metallic frame of my phone further behind my back with the tips of my fingers, slipping it deeper in between the pillow. And here you could really see she's stretching to hide that phone because she did it with the tips of her fingers. And just to keep in mind, specific wording is the key to success. She goes on to say, please don't beep, please don't beep, please don't beep. I wish to retreat into my pillows and drift to a safe place, a place where he can no longer touch me with his filthy hands. Posey snarls at the sight of the man. She jumps on the bed, protectively planting herself between me and him. Her eyes darken and she barks viciously, but he isn't fazed, not one bit. This really puts Posey in a more active role rather than just barking. We see the connection between Posey and the main character by Posey really putting herself in between them and just viciously barking at the mom's boyfriend. He stumbles but then leans against the door frame to keep balance. His tall and muscled body removes any chance of escape. My bottom lip twitches. You know how it goes, Z. Take off your shorts, he orders, followed by a belch and a twisted smile. This just shows how much control he believes he has over her by him saying, you know how it goes. Like it's something that happens all the time and that he expects to be in complete power and control. Someone thinking they could have all this control and that nothing can ever change. His white undershirt had brownish yellow sweat stains, and his black hair was slick with grease. Even from the doorway, his putrid stench of alcohol, body odor, and cigarettes engulfs the room. I wrinkle my nose in disgust. Dirty bastard. His countenance darkens at my silent refusal, but I look away. I won't make it easy for him this time, not today. His anger rises like steam from a boiling pot and sobers him a bit. Don't make me say it twice like last time. A vein twitches at his temple, his pale skin making it visible, and a half-drunk bottle of whiskey is tightly gripped within his right hand. You know what will happen. He's my mom's fourth boyfriend, and I hate him. At this point, you can go on to delve into exposition and the main character's thoughts. For example, how she doesn't understand what her mother sees in that man. This is because you've already successfully hooked the reader. They have burning questions, so they won't mind sticking around for a few paragraphs of explanation. However, your delivery must be strategic. Write only what matters. The answer to the questions rising in the reader's mind. The reader won't care about anything else. Why? Because they are in a suspenseful scene. Exposition like this is meant to occur during a beat of slight rest, or even when the climax has ended. So that is just my slight copy edit of the beginning, where I think the beginning would have been better started, because now the dread is built, the suspense is there, the readers are wanting to know like who this guy is now because of what's going on. They want to know who he is, where's the mom, like what's going on, because you have pulled out a lot of questions for them. So a book is not a good story without questions. If you go into writing a book and you're just spitting out answers without even suggesting any questions, then it's like there's no interest really in reading. So that's why you have to really weave the questions in there strategically. But overall, I could really just see the potential of this first chapter being like one of intensity, one of something that a lot of people will be able to relate to. So I give the author props on that. So yeah, that's my take on writing suspense and how to build it and how to really work in it. And I hope that I made sense throughout the video, because this is really the first time I'm doing something like this. So I just would really appreciate your comments on your thoughts on everything. It would really help me out and I would appreciate every single one of them. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you again to the author for allowing me to review and edit your chapter. You have a story that has potential to touch lives and to really speak about deeper topics that most people don't try to talk about. So kudos to you for touching up on these topics, and I hope you learned something, and that just know that what I have mentioned, just take it with a grain of salt. I'm just one person. My opinions don't matter off the great scheme of things, because you're a writer yourself and you're learning every day like myself and like every other writer. So don't feel bad about anything. Just try to take what you feel like is good advice and just put it into your work. And I just hope that you grow in writing and that everything goes well for you. So thank you guys so much for watching. Post down in the comments if you want me to do more videos like this, and even mention if you guys would be interested in sending me your first chapters and allowing me to edit and review them. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Bye.